If you've clicked on this video, you probably know about Jetlag the game. If not, it's a travel-based competition show where the contestants use real-world infrastructure to play classic games like tag or hide and seek, but on a bigger scale. They complete challenges to use different modes of transportation and one-up their competitors. The show is really fun and exciting, but if you wanted to play it yourself, you'd have to go outside and touch grass. That's why over the last few months I've been working on this, a Jetlag-inspired board game that you can play in your living room. In this video I'll present the game, go through my game design process and play it with a special guest that you might know. I study media design, and in one of my classes I had the opportunity to design a board game. My initial reaction was, of course, oh cool, I want to make a Jetlag game. Of course, I'm not the first one to think of this. A big shout out goes out to Task Metro and Inertia the Game, two fan-made games which give you the opportunity to play Jetlag on a smaller scale in your hometown. And I have to add that at that point the official home game wasn't announced yet. In any case, there was no adaptation to play indoors yet, maybe on a cold day or with older relatives. So that's what I started brainstorming on. How could you make a travel game without traveling? I was super motivated, but the problem was I had never designed a game before. And so my journey of ups and downs began.
This is a roller coaster.
I wanted to recreate tag across Europe, where one player is on the run, trying to get to a destination, and the other players chase after him. So I made a very bare-bones map with a start point and two end locations.
Yeah, this is fine. It's fine. It's fine. I can do this.
My first instinct was to do what the Jetlag crew probably does for their internal playtesting. Instead of taking trains like in the show, the players would just research the connections they would take and write it down. The problem was, this wasn't fun. Researching travel options isn't very exciting and you can't really talk to the other players while stuck on your phone. So I went back to the drawing board. For the second iteration of the game, I made a printed prototype. It was very satisfying to have it visualized like this, but I can't recommend it to new game designers because it was a lot of extra work that would later be scrapped. My goal for this project was to recreate the game in the show as closely as possible. But the problem was, in a board game you play in your living room, you can't really do challenges the way they do in Jetlag. There they often have to go to a physical location or buy supplies to do a challenge. And even challenges you could do at home, like solving a puzzle, would only work once. I had no clue how to make challenges, well, challenging and replayable. So I used a luck-based system. You would roll dice and depending on your roll, you could go to different cardinal directions on the game board. I thought I'd found the perfect solution.
I can control the panic feeling.
But that was far from the truth. I had no idea what challenges still lay ahead of me. The problem with the cardinal directions was that it was hard to keep track of all your options and it became quite a chore to take a turn. So I took notes on what I had to fix. I was aware of all the problems, but had no solutions yet. And that's when my girlfriend mentioned Scotland Yard. Now, I had never played Scotland Yard, but after reading the rules for the first time, the movement mechanics seemed very promising. In Scotland Yard, players have a limited number of tickets for different transport methods. Just like in real life, there are faster and slower travel options, which creates opportunities to strategize. So I added that principle to my own game. The players could now choose between 3 different transport methods and, very important, the runner was now hidden. So the chasers would now have to figure out somehow where to catch the runner. All players now needed a strategy, which made the game so much more interesting already. But it was still too hard for the chasers to know where the runner might be, because the only times when they got a clue about their position was when the runner landed on a special space on the board. The game quickly got boring when the chasers couldn't chase, because they had no clue where to go. A lot of balancing was still needed, but after the previous 2 failed attempts, the bare bones of the game were finally heading in the right direction. After making some more adjustments to the game, I posted on the Jetlag subreddit to find playtesters who could maybe look at the game with fresh eyes and catch on to issues I had missed. Thanks to everyone who joined my Discord server and was willing to help with playtesting. It was really cool to see people excited about the game before it was even remotely finished. In this playtest, the game really started to get fun. A new mechanic for the chasers now gave them a real chance of winning. And it was quite fun to be the winner and deceive the chasers by not making the most obvious moves and seeing them go in the completely wrong direction. The game still needed more balancing though, because if the chasers had gone to the wrong part of the map, it was near impossible to catch up with the winner. And at this point I added some jet-lag references to the game, namely in the curse cards and with the inclusion of some places on the map that played an important role in jet lag. But I wanted more than that, so I had the idea to add event cards with some funny quotes from jet lag.
Cardinal directions and vibes.
These event cards would also bring some more randomness into the game and could seriously throw off your thought out strategy, just like what can happen in the real jet lag.
This is absolutely fine.
On one fateful day, I tested the game with just 2 players for the first time. In the previous tests, we always had 3 players. I had defined the game as suitable for 2 to 5 players. Now in this playtest, we noticed it wasn't quite the same with just 2 players, and soon abandoned playing before we even got to the new event cards. The game still worked, but the chaser now had to play with 2 figures and make all the decisions alone. That's when I realized that games aren't about winning. It's about the friends you make along the way. Collaborating, strategizing together, talking through where the winner might be, that was the fun part of the game, and that wouldn't work with just 2 players. So I decided to limit the game to 3 or 4 players. A much narrower range than 2 to 5, but I'm sure it was for the best. At some point I was getting worried about the production cost of the game. I wanted to have my games produced by The Game Crafter, a small US-based company that makes custom board games. What's great about them is that it's print on demand, so you can order just 1 copy, where most game manufacturers will only sell you hundreds or thousands of copies. But of course, such a single copy order will be relatively expensive to manufacture. So to save on production cost, I tried to remove most of the playing cards from the game. And what's cheaper than a bunch of cards? A few dice. Now I had already used dice in a failed prototype before, but the problem then weren't the dice. So in my head, using dice made so much sense, and I was very happy about the super simple change that could save production cost. But then I playtested it and it all fell apart.
Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this.
You couldn't plan ahead when you had to roll dice, and oftentimes you had to skip a turn because you had an unlucky roll. It was really frustrating. So I went back to the good old cards. With the cards back in the game, I made a slightly more polished prototype with thicker paper and double-sided printing. And in the playtest of this iteration, the game did feel more finished than ever, as for the first time we didn't immediately have ideas on how to improve it. There were details to optimize in the rulebook and on the game board, but nothing that would change the gameplay. At this point I was so happy because I had made a game that we genuinely had fun playing. In this new iteration, nothing gameplay related had changed. It was all about small cosmetic improvements. So in this playtest we tried weird strategies to find edge cases where the game would break. In one round the chasers tried to get as many event cards as possible. In another round they farmed coins to learn the destination of the runner, so they could block it. While these strategies did change the gameplay, it didn't really break. It was still possible for the runner to win, even if the chasers tried the meanest possible strategies. So I was quite content.
I like roller coasters. I love roller coasters.
One day in November, there was an exciting announcement from the Jet Lag crew. They were gonna release an official Jet Lag game to play at home. I immediately pre-ordered it and couldn't wait to test it. At the time of recording, I don't have it yet, but when I do, I will definitely test it. And to be honest, I was quite relieved that their game wasn't too similar to mine. A few days later, I received my prototype from The Game Crafter that is here now. It was really exciting to unbox and I could finally make some cool product photos. But the story doesn't end there. There was still one long road trip to be made to play the game with a special guest from beautiful Denmark. This is Hamfrax. You might know him as the guy who analyzes every single frame of Jetlag trailers to predict what happens in an upcoming season. He's also a big fan of board games, so if I could get his approval, I'd know I'd done an okay job. We had a lot of fun together and I think I got his approval.
Thanks for coming and sharing this. This is, I would say, the feel of Jetlag the game distilled into a box.
But maybe he was just polite. If you want to see a full playthrough of my game, check out his channel. We recorded an entire session. And if you want to play Timetable Tech yourself, you can. On timetabletech.com you can get the print and play version to print it yourself, like I have in my playtests, or you can pre-order this physical board game. The Game Crafter runs a crowd sale where the game gets cheaper the more orders are placed. It will still take a few months before they ship, but hopefully it's worth the wait. So check out the link in the description, check out Hamfrax's video, and thanks so much for watching till the end. I really appreciate it.
This is a roller coaster. Yeah, this is fine. It's fine. It's fine. I can do this. Ah! I can control the panic feeling. Ah! This is absolutely fine. This is fine. I can do this. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I like roller coasters. I love roller coasters.